Greetings, brothers. I'm Kevin Scott. I'm the current historian for the Chicago Alumni Chapter, and I am conducting this video as a series of interviews that I will be conducting to archive the lives of our illustrious members of our chapter. Tonight, I have with me past Chicago Alumni Polemarch, Brother Frank Walker. Good evening, Brother Walker.
Good evening, Brother Kevin. How you doing?
All right. How are you doing tonight?
Good to be here.
Okay, good. I'm glad that we have an opportunity to get together and so that you can share your ideas and your knowledge with the brothers of our chapter. Would you start off by sharing information about your life, things such as where you were born, where you grew up, your family, and leading up to your current professional life?
Sure. That's I was born here in Chicago, and I am one of 5 sons of my father and mother, Frank and Johnny May Walker. So I have 4 other brothers that a lot of people don't even know I have. But we all are doing whatever we do on an independent basis and seem to be independent enough to have our own businesses and are perpetuating them. I went to Parker High School, where I graduated in the top, what they used to call 10% of the class, and thought I was in pretty good shape as far as going to college, and found out that there was such a thing as black or white, which I didn't understand because I went to school with white children both in high school and in grammar school. But in college it was a different world because there were a lot less of the black children and many, many more of the white ones. And then at the same time, the educational process that we got necessarily in the Chicago public schools didn't necessarily always measure up to what everybody else got. So I had to learn how to cope and how to get along and how to study a little bit harder in order to make it.
Okay.
I'm married for the second time. I have 2 children by my first marriage, Max, and he has, now I'm a grandfather, he has a son, and my daughter Ramel, who's here in Chicago now. Basically, my wife of the past 7 years is Jacqueline Elrod Walker, and we were somewhat, not necessarily not high school sweethearts, but we were friends in high school. I met her in summer school one year.
Okay.
But we didn't get together for another 25 years or so, something like that. So it's been kind of an interesting thing in the way things have actually, I guess, developed. Same way with education, going in from here, from grammar school, high school, to matriculate through Southern Illinois, where I became involved and had the aspiration to be a Kappa. And actually found that being a Kappa, coming from SIU or Gamma Upsilon and Upsilon, as some people like to unaffectionately call it, we were probably one of the more, if not the most progressive undergraduate chapter of our time, far surpassing, in my estimation, the things that were going on at Beta and also at Alpha Rho. And I think that's why we got Upsilon instead of Upsilon, because no one actually did some of the things that we did. I think we were very, not instrumental, but we were noted for Kappa Carnival, which brought people from all over the United States for 4 days, and we would always have coffers in excess of $50,000 as undergraduates. So that really made a big difference, and it actually showed us, being a member of the chapter and being able to work with guys that had ideas and were progressive, it showed me different things that were available to do if you stepped out there to do them. And I tried to bring those things forward with me, because actually I didn't finish at Southern Illinois. I finished at National College after I got out the service, because I was drafted. And I went into the service and I was there for 3 years during Vietnam. So I got out of service back in '71 and joined Chicago Alumni Chapter in '72. And from there we started on quite a road as far as what Kappa Alpha Psi meant to me, and what I hope I helped to make it mean to others as we went forward.
Okay. And what about things that happen for you professionally?
Professionally, I came out of service and I was able to go get a job. Actually, believe it or not, I was recommended by one of my fraternity brothers from down in Southern Illinois, a guy named Darrell Reed, who was a great friend and has been a great friend of mine ever since college. Probably my best friend.
Okay.
He looked out for me as far as what was going on with my then wife at that time, which she was here and I was in Germany. And when a job became available at American Can Company, he let me know about it and gave the people my name, and I carried it the rest of the way. I worked with American Can, which turned into James River, for 22 years. My capacity was in sales. I became the sales manager for Northern Tissue, and I was able to learn how to develop products, how to develop programs, cost analysis, things that I am now using in my own profession as a business person. So Kappa has been very good to me from the beginning. Without people like Darrell and whatever to let you know some of the things that you could do or that might be available and point you in the right direction.
Right.
You don't know what actually could or could not have happened. But I spent, like I said, 22 years there before the downsizing of that company, which put me out of the job completely. But at that time, I was at the top of the rung of whatever was going on in Chicago. I had purview over every independent promotion and independent account in the Chicago land area, to include northwestern Indiana and Wisconsin. So it was interesting to, as I had to say it, be the spy that sat by the door and finally had to get the door open, because I was actually the only one left that was really qualified to do it. And once I was able to do that, as usual, I did what I thought was best to do and made it work. Okay. So that was what that was about.
And so this experience that you had professionally prepared you for what you're currently doing now. And could you tell the brothers about what you're doing now with your professional life?
I want to digress a second and say something. And I want everybody to recognize that we do one thing very badly as brothers in brotherhood. We'll go to meetings and we'll sit next to Brother Jones and Brother Brown and Brother Wilson and whoever, and we'll talk with them. We'll have a couple of drinks and do this and that. And we never know what Brother Brown, Brother Jones, Brother Wilson does, because we don't talk about it. We don't do what we ought to be doing on a regular basis. We do not network.
Network and fellowship with the brothers in that capacity.
In that capacity, because within the organization, within the Kappa organization, there's no reason for us to ever go outside of our circle to get anything we want.
Everything is there.
Everything is really there, but we haven't taken the time or the opportunity to find out what's next to us.
And I agree, and that's part of the reason why we're documenting this in this way, so that brothers can, in the event that they don't turn that corner to do things that are most accessible to them in a chapter meeting or some sort of other social function, to be able to commiserate and speak with other brothers that are right next to them. They can watch this video and they can learn things about brothers in a much larger way that they never knew before.
And that was the main reason I said that, because it's, as I was Polemarch, that was one of the things that I tried to bring out to brothers. But all the time, everybody's not listening.
Right.
But to get back to your question, I had the opportunity through another brother that let me know that there was a company down in Louisiana that wanted to bring some products into the Chicago market to market. And they told them about me, and what this company wanted me to do was be the broker or the distributor for that product, not to own the product. And I just didn't see necessarily working for anybody else.
Right.
And so
You've been there, done that.
I've been there and done that, and I told them, I said, well, what I'd like to do, I like what you have. I think we have some good opportunities, but if we work together and we make this thing work well, it'll do good for you and it'll do good for me, and we'll all come out smelling well. And they went along with it on a tepid basis. They really didn't want to do it because, first of all, I'm black. Second of all, if you know anything about Louisiana, it ain't about all that. Mm-hmm. Okay? So they gave me the opportunity and I stepped off with it. I was fortunate enough as I got started to know how to research, and I researched a name. I couldn't use Frank's because it was already out there. And I researched, I thought something like Smokin' Joe, it just came to me. And Smokin' Joe was available as a copyrighted trademark. And I jumped on it right away, and that's how Smokin' Joe products started. We started out with just hot sauces, and we developed from there as we got our customer base, which I already had my customer base. My customer base were the people that I was selling to,
all those
toilet
years.
people, all those years. I knew all the buyers, I knew the people that owned warehouses, I knew the store managers. All I had to do was bring them something that, like I was bringing them before, because I had gained their confidence already. Right. So with me gaining their confidence, they were willing to take an opportunity to try my product and see how it would sell. And I put the marketing programs behind it, and I did all the preliminary, the labeling, label layout, design, all of those were my ideas. So all those things came to fruition, and believe it or not, within 7 months from the time that I got out of work to the date that I had my first product put on the shelf was only 7 months. You don't do that.
Right.
It just doesn't happen. But I already had the knowledge, and this is what most of the time people work 20 years, 10 years for a company, and they do what the people tell them, and they go home, and they do what the people tell them, and they go home. They lose their job. They don't know what to do.
Show for it.
No, they don't know what to do. They can't put any of the knowledge that they had, if they gained any knowledge at that job, to turn it into something that would make something work for them. And this is what I try to impress upon younger people. What have you learned while you've been working what you were working? Can you do that for yourself? Why not? Those kind of things.
Leadership.
Leadership. So from there we developed into, I put, a lot of people don't know, but the hand clean chitlins that Moanoik has, Moanoik was one of my best customers when I first started, because I sold them their first paper products. But the hand clean chitlins that Moanoik has, I had them to sell them to me, and a guy named Ken Hennings, who's a brother. We were partners at that time. I had the idea, and I had the marketing expertise, and I knew how to sell them to somebody else. We sold our first chitlins to Dominic's and Jewel. They had never had these products before. They stepped out on faith because I'd already showed them how to do it. They didn't think it was going to work, but they were willing to give it a try. And we were able to stand behind the product. And that's how a lot of you people right now are buying these hand-cleaned chitlins from somebody other than Moanoik, because we were able to get Moanoik to let go of some of their product, because if they didn't have to sell it and they could still get money from it, why not sell it?
Right.
So just a lot of new, different ideas, I guess, I brought to the table on how to do some things that really worked. And getting into the other things, like I said, the seasoning, we have a green season, we have 2 different ones now. We started out with one just to spice up the greens, because even though people think they can cook, most of them don't. Most of the younger folks today don't know how to cook, and they need a lot of help. We brought out a chitlin seasoning. We have, like I said, a fantastic green seasoning. We call it Smoking Joe's Mean Green seasoning. And it was so successful that people wanted to use it on, vegetables and all those kind of things, which is good. But they wanted to use it for their children, and some people have health issues that allowed them not to use it because our mean greens has MSG in it.
Okay.
So we came and we took the MSG out of the mean greens, and we took the spiciness out of the mean greens. And now we have a mild, no MSG green seasoning. So we were able to somewhat satiate two different segments of the market just because we started out with one.
Right.
We were able to see those things because you have to listen to what's going on.
You have to listen to your customer base.
If you don't listen to your customer base and do what you want to do, it's all over. Because, just for an instance, I'm not a chicken eater. I don't eat chicken. But I'll cook it. I can cook it. And we got wing sauce that's great on it. I can show you how to cook it. And it'll knock your socks off. But if it was up to me and I said, well, I don't want this product because I don't like chicken, then you're cutting yourself, your nose off to spite your face.
Exactly.
You're not the end all to everything. You have to see how this blends, what good it's going to do everybody else, in spite of what it doesn't do for you.
Right.
Okay? So it tends to be somewhat of an unselfish type of situation that allows you to grow when you do these kind of things. And that's how we've been able to do some great growth with Smoking Joe. And I do hope that most of the brothers, at least now, know that Smoking Joe is not just a name and don't belong to a Hispanic guy because he's a little bandito with guns on there. It belongs to Smoking Joe Frank Walker. That's who it is. And that's what we do.
Okay. Well, tell the brothers about any personal hobbies or personal interests that you might have that everyone possibly wouldn't know about.
Actually, my greatest love, I was a baseball player. I played baseball all the way up till the time I got out of the service. I played in service. I didn't play in high school because my high school coach wouldn't let me play because I wouldn't wrestle for him. So I played in college. I played in college.
Sounds like a true coach.
Well, that's the way they did. And then again, as you see, I stick to my guns. Mm-hmm. Both of them. But I love coaching. I love coaching young children. I like to catch them around 7, 8, and 9 because if I can catch them then, it makes it easier for somebody else down the line if they're brought up properly.
Right.
If they're not, by the time they're 10 years old and they think they know everything and haven't learned anything, it makes it real rough for them to grow and for a coach to be a coach. Right. You know. So it's just like bringing up children. You have to bring them up from this level, not from there like this. You bring them up here, and they let them know what is and what ain't, and let them know why, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna backtrack a little bit to something you pointed out earlier when you talked about your college, going to SIU. When you were in school at that time, what would you say the racial percentage of students were at your school?
Wow. I couldn't even tell you what the real numbers were that our dear President Delight allowed in their total. But we probably had only about 150, 175 black students, period. And some of those were Africans. Okay, wow. Out of that 15,000 or so that might have been there.
Wow.
We were fortunate, I was fortunate, that we were able to, the brothers that were there before us set very good examples. And we were fortunate enough to have one of 2 black fraternity houses on what was called Greek Road. That was elite. That was like going through Pill Hill or whatever.
And still would be today in many
today,
schools.
In many schools, the same thing. But we were able to do one thing well. We abided by the rules most of the time. And we paid our bills. And for the most part, we didn't get in too much trouble.
Okay.
But, and then there were, the AKs had a house, Alphas had a house, and we had a house. That was it.
Okay.
And it was just a wonderful thing to be able to have something of your own that you could invite other people to and that you were proud of.
Right.
And this is something that I was proud of when I got back to Chicago, that we did have a Kappa house that was not necessarily run as well as it should have been, because it was a by committee, and you can't do a by committee type of a thing with a house like that. It needed to have someone in charge, needed to have someone that was paid, that you could point at and fire at some point if they weren't doing the job.
To make them accountable. To
make it because well, brother, I didn't have time, and I had to do this, and and I'm not lying. I know what I'm talking about. This is what happened, and that's how we fell through the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole thing is accountability is everything.
Right. Right. So I'm glad that you gave me the segue that I needed relating to Kappa Alpha Psi, where you were on the campus of SIU. Tell us who or what inspired you to become a member of Kappa Alpha Psi while you were at SIU?
Actually, I became inspired to become a member of Kappa Alpha Psi as I was coming out of high school. Two partners of mine, neither one of them made Kappa. Wanted to, didn't make it. And I drove down one night to one of the early Kappa carnivals, and it was at the Student Union. We drove up that night, we were tired, we got in, went to the Union, and the carnival had started. We walked in and we were welcomed with open arms. I mean, it was like I was in Chicago and didn't know anybody, but I was in Chicago and known. And you were treated so well. Things were run well. We had a great time. The people were my kind of people. People you could be around, turn your back, and your back wouldn't get ripped open. We had guys that I met that were a doctor, so and so, a doctor, I forget what he was the RA for the Kappa house.
Okay.
And we met him. I met the Polemarch, and they were just down to earth good guys. I had some great. This was in junior college. It was in junior college.
Okay.
I had some great inroads to Phi Beta Sigma, because one of my friends was a Sigma. Sigma's always had a party. They were down on 49th and King Drive, had a nice house, good time, but those guys just weren't about something to me. But they were nice guys. And I could have become a Sigma. In fact, probably if I had become a Sigma, I probably would have been Polemarch right away for everything. Because they just didn't have any real leadership. Okay. And I'm not trying to say that I'm a leader, but I think that I could have lent a lot to what they were doing. And in Kappa and with the guys that were there, they had guys that stood for something. And that meant a lot to me, because this is what, being the oldest of 5 sons, I understood what it meant to be accountable. Because if I was going to do something wrong, my brothers would do something wrong, and guess who would get in trouble? Didn't like that. Okay. So I would do the right thing and do my best to keep them right behind me and show them how to do it. I didn't have anybody to show me how to do. And some of these Kappas could show me some things. Okay. And the right way to do the things. And that's what I appreciated. And that's why I wanted to become a Kappa.
Okay. For those brothers who might not know, You already told us that you were initiated into Gamma Upsilon. Tell us what year, your line's name.
Yeah, I was initiated in 1967. We were called the KS Crooks because I said that we try to do things the right way. And I think Dan Dixon will have a great kick out of this because we were online. One of my brothers online, a guy named, he's a doctor now, Jimmy Pillars. Some of the guys on my line were very well to do, their parents were. Jimmy, we found a way for Jimmy to sneak home one weekend and bring a car back, his dad's car. We had a 67 Cadillac and a doghouse, and we had all kind of tasks to do. Southern Illinois campus is big. It's bigger now than it was, but it was spread out and there was no transportation for real. In order to do some of the things we had to do, you walked or you rode a bicycle.
A literal country mile.
Hello. A real country mile.
Right.
But Jimmy brought his father's car back down, and we called ourselves the 67 Dogs and a 67 Hog. And I'll never forget this one night. There are always train tracks in these little towns. One night we were out. We were on Hell Week, and we were coming back from picking up something to get to the Kappa House because we were parked a long ways away from the Kappa House and cut across and through to get there. But this one night, we got caught by a train. I said, oh no, we don't need to get caught by a train. We don't know who's coming by. And the brothers have ladies in different places, different parts of town, because some of them lived on campus, some of them lived off. I lived off campus. So they had come from picking me up. So we were at the railroad track, and this one brother, his name was Eddie Richards. Funny thing, Eddie Richards wore dark glasses and thick, and he really couldn't see too well. Eddie Richards was walking, coming toward the, where the gate was and where we were standing. And he walked past and he looked at the car. And luckily the windows were not black dark like they are today, but they were tinted. And he couldn't really see in because his glasses were dark anyway. But he got back to the house, and the next day he told the brother, he said, brothers, I swear I saw them brothers, these pledges, and he called us some other names, in a car, in a Cadillac. And the Polemarch said, now where in the hell would they get a Cadillac from? See, nobody really remembered that Jimmy had gone home for the weekend and had come back. So there's no way for us to get a car. There's no Hertz rent-a-car on campus. We didn't, those kind of things. There's nothing. So that was totally discounted. So we got away with that.
Right, because that would have been their car.
That would have been their car. But I swear, it was so funny because when we got back to the doghouse, we were all sweating bullets. They said, do you think he saw us? He said, Richards can't see shit. He can't see a thing. Don't worry about it. They ask us, what you talking about, big brother? So and so. We got to make it from the. Where's your dog? Well, we can't tell you that, big brother, but we'll go back and so and so and so. But we never got anything but one query about it. But it was so funny. It was so funny. And that was one incident I'll never really forget. But it was really a great situation. But one thing about those guys, again, like I said, Darrell Reed was made the line 3 months just before I was, because I got made just before Kappa Carnival. So we were actually online at the same time. They had 2 lines at the same time. And all of us have remained tremendous friends, very, very close since all of that. So it's a wonderful thing to have that type of camaraderie And this is what, I would like and hope that we can hopefully develop within Chicago alumni.
And when you spoke to the closeness of the brothers that you pledged with, how many brothers were on your line?
There were 7 of us.
7 of you.
There were 7. I was number 6.
Are all 7 still alive?
We believe everybody's alive except one guy we haven't been able to get a hold of. He lived in Detroit, and he was always very quiet and different. But no, all of them are still alive and very active and productive,
Okay.
as it would be.
Okay, and that leads into my next question. If you happen to know about what, if any of your line brothers achieved a prominent office within the fraternity and within their professional life.
Not within the fraternity. Other than myself, the only other one that became Polemarch anywhere was Daryl Reed, and that was when he was in Connecticut, because he got transferred out of Chicago when we were working together. But Daryl became the national president of the National Black MBA Association for 4 years.
Okay.
So I'm a member of the National Black MBA Association also, but he was national president for a long, long time. And again, organization, knowing how to do things and know how to construct and how to have some vision about what goes on is what happens when you have people like that available. And sometimes it seems like we're more than just fraternity brothers. It seems like we do the same things.
Right. Because
we do. His mother and father thought we were so much alike that we could have been, brothers. But he was the guy that actually had the vision of the Fine 79. I worked with him as we put together a, I guess, presentation to the Chicago chapter. Now you have to figure, we were 25, something like that.
You had 12 years in the bond at that time? 12, right before 79, so you were getting the idea together.
I had 3 years in the bond. 4 years, 5 years in the bond. 5 years in the bond. In 72.
Okay, in 72. That's when the idea came up.
That was when the idea came up, and we brought it to Chicago alumni. Now, you have to understand who was Chicago alumni then. You're talking about Brother Irvin, a guy named Joe Neal, who is it? I can't think of his name. Why can't I think of his name? The guy that was the general chairman of the whole thing. What was his name? He had a brother. He was Grand Polemarch. Why can't I think of his name? I don't have my glasses. He's right in this picture here.
Okay. That's
why can't I think of his name?
Let me see.
Wilson. Wilson. That's not his name.
Dwight E. Flowers.
No, Dwight got made Gamma Upsilon with me. Who else is on there?
Fitzgerald.
No.
Think about C.
William
Roger
Bryant.
Wilson?
C. Roger Wilson. C. Roger Wilson. That's what I knew it was a W or a W in there somewhere. Wilson.
Okay.
C. Roger Wilson. The C. Roger Wilson, Dumases of the world, all those people. Those were the people that we had to present to.
Okay.
An idea that hadn't been done since 1953. Now, it's 26 years later, and nobody had tried to do anything since then. So when we brought the idea to the chapter, I think Ned Dunbar was Polemarch initially at that point. And we took the thing down, we took our proposal to a grand chapter, which was in Las Vegas. And at that time, Jim Peoples had just become Polemarch. So we took it down there, and we had a dog and pony show, movies. a lot of great pictures of Chicago and all the pretty women that are there and the things that could be done. And we were approved. But it was on a vision of someone. As they say, the young shall lead.
Right.
And this is what's going on right now in Chicago alumni, the young and lead. So we had the vision, and I was able to be there, support, and eventually became deputy chairman of the Fine 79. Again, a situation where some other people may have thought that they should have been involved in doing that, but I was selected by C. Roger Wilson himself to be that, mostly because of my involvement and the fact that Darrell Reed had been transferred out of Chicago to go to Connecticut.
Okay.
So with him going to Connecticut, Dwight Flowers, who again is another Gamma Upsilon brother, was Gamma Upsilon. And we were considered somewhat like the Quarter Century Committee was considered. Everybody wanted to know, well, what's Gamma Upsilon chapter doing? You know, we're not doing anything. We're trying to be here with you. You know, it worked with that few of us, Harry Reid, Dwight, myself, Darrell. And at that time, I think Ralph Moore, who is R-E-J-R-E-M, he's very prominent right now in the Chicago area. He does everything with the mayor and whatever. So that's another brother that's done very well.
Okay.
But Ralph Moore, there weren't that many of us, but it was just the thought of us being as strong and solid as we were and doing what we did in the way that we did it, that they know if we decided to do something, it would get done.
Okay.
That kind of thing.
Right.
So, but it was a wonderful, wonderful experience, and it led to a lot of other things down the road.
Tell me, I have a couple questions that a lot of things that you said prompted a couple other questions in my mind. First of all, tell me how the experiences as a Kappa in those days has changed. If you've noticed a change throughout the years.
I think the change throughout the years has to do with acceptance. The persons that feel that they went through a pledgeship think that their diamond is bigger or that they're better Kappas than the guys that didn't do it. And the problem is that Kappa is a situation that's inside. It's how big you are inside, what it did to you inside, not what it's doing to you outside. There was a greater, I think, camaraderie among those people that had an opportunity to pledge together for a while. I mean, actually pledge together, because they had to do things together. They had to go through disagreements in order to agree.
Right.
And today, we don't get a chance to go through disagreements to agree. We go through disagreements and we disagree forever.
Right.
Okay? And that's wrong, because the whole thing about the disagreement and the singing together, we have to harmonize. If we can agree to disagree, then we've done something. But we have to go through the process of understanding the dynamics of the disagreement in order to agree that the disagreement is a non-entity and that we need to move on.
Right.
We don't have that because people don't know that what goes on in chapter meeting goes on in chapter meeting. And if, you know, you're a stupid so-and-so, so-and-so and so would say. This don't make any sense. Let's do it like this. If we do it this way, this, and this will happen. What do you think? Well, if we do it this, well, see there, we don't have that. We can't do it this way. Can you see where this won't work, where this will work better? Let's try this and see if we all pull together, it'll work. And that's another thing we don't do. We still have factions. And we shouldn't have the fact. If we have a project that we're working on and the body has agreed, now you can disagree against the body. But the thing is that it's for the good of the whole that we do what we do.
And everybody's got to pull the same direction.
And everybody, if we're going to be successful, everybody pulls in the same direction, and it's not later on after, so, well, you know, I told you that wasn't going to work, so and so and so and so, but what did you do to help it? That's the question that needs to be asked to that person that comes out with that statement. And again, it's not trying to tear that person down, but you have a reason for saying what you said. What did you do to make it to help to make it a success? I didn't do nothing. Well, what are you talking about?
All right.
You see what I'm saying?
I see exactly what you're saying.
But the whole thing is, verbally, most of us, except for dumb people like me, won't say that to people because they're afraid of injuring their verb or whatever. But if you didn't help, if you're not part of the process, you're part of the problem. And it's just a black and white situation, and we need to come to grips with that if we're going to go forward. We should have had a house a long time ago. But you have the brothers, and I don't need to name any names because we know who they are. They'll say, well, I would do this, but, you know, I don't believe so and so and so and so, and I ain't going to put my money where this is and what that. We got to try something in order to make it work. We lost what we had because we didn't do it right. And again, I'm going to say the same thing. Unless there's some accountability somewhere, it still ain't going to work.
Okay. Well, let me ask you, how much of a role did Kappa play in preparing you to be a leader in your professional life?
I think I'd like to go back to the poem Invictus. And being on pledge line and having to learn and understand what it meant to be the captain of my soul and meaning it gave me a lot of stick-to-itiveness. I really believed and still believe that I am the captain of my fate. And every day there's something new that comes up that tries to turn you in a different direction. And you can go in that direction, but you've gone there, and you're supposed to be here. How much does it take to get all the way back to where you were going? Is it worth being over here to get to where you're trying to get over here, and how can you get back? You can stray, but you can't stray far. Because if you stray too far, you're going to be a lost little lamb. You need to understand the commitments to being who you are. The commitments to being and to doing what you say you're going to do.
Right.
And understanding that what you have projected to do is the best thought that you possibly could have come up with and followed through.
Okay. What prompted you to run for the office of Polemarch with Chicago Alumni Chapter?
For many years, for too many years, I felt that there was a lot of selfishness there in the Polemarch's position. That things that needed to go on should go on for the good of the chapter, not for the good of the Polemarch. Because the Polemarch's only one person, he's got one vote. If we can put some things in place that would allow the chapter to be better than it is, to have the chapter run better than it does, to get more people involved, to get more people to stay for meetings, that was what I was wanting to do. And I do believe that I achieved some of that during the time I was there. Because we would be in meetings from 8 o'clock to 1 o'clock. We would be in meetings from 8 o'clock to 11:30. And guess what we achieved? Guess what we worked out most of the time? Nothing. Because the meetings were not conducted to the point where it allowed a certain amount of talk about an action and then taking action on that subject that you were trying to act upon. You could talk about something all day. We're not a filibuster. We're not in Congress. We're trying to get something done today so we can get it done 2 months from now. But if we keep talking about that same thing and how to do it for the next month and a half, 2 months is already on us, and we ain't done it. So I wanted to bring some conformity to the meetings. I wanted to bring some different thought processes to how we were doing what we were doing, and I wanted to get some new people involved in the process, because the process usually allowed the same people to do the same thing, necessarily sometimes the same way, which wasn't always good.
Right.
So I guess I've been a change agent, an agent of change, hopefully for the better in most cases. I'm very pleased to see that the meetings are a lot more timely than they've been. And it all came after, I've been Polemarch. So if nothing else, if I contributed just that to what was going on, I'm very happy.
Okay. Were there any other offices that you were able to hold over the years prior to the position of Polemarch?
Sure. I was Senior Vice Polemarch twice, Keeper of Exchequer. I served as Keeper of Records for a little while. I was a Junior Vice Polemarch. I've been the delegate to so many provinces and grand conclaves. I've been chairman of many committees, to include the 579, to include the roast toast that we had with Nancy Wilson, the formal committee, which I ran for many years, the guide right committee. Boy, there have been some other committees there too, that, awards committee. But, for the most part, I tend to remember the things that happened with the formal committee and what I really wanted to achieve with the formal committee while I was Polemarch, because, again, if we don't all participate, it doesn't come out the way that it ought to. And one thing I'll say out loud again, and I tried to get it done, I didn't get support while I was Polemarch from our board, but we had monies available, and we had not gone up on dues in 15 years. And in order to put at least one ticket, which would have been one bid for the brother, for the formal, into the dues structure, it would have meant that, for the most part, the formal would have been success.
Because you would ensure.
You would ensure that you would have at least one participant or its money. The same way when we did the same thing, and I was instrumental in doing that. I was instrumental in doing several things, but instrumental in putting that $50 for Founders Day into the dues. Because they were going to go anyway, but we had to always put the money up. And if we didn't have enough money to put up, then, with us being the largest chapter that's there, it made it difficult for the Founders Day to really go on, whether people recognize it or not. And so when we did that, it made sure that we had at least 100 people that we could guarantee. If all of them didn't show up, there was money for the chapter.
Right.
Same way, and I still think it ought to happen. If we don't all participate, if there's not a way for all of us to participate and get something for our dues money. The brothers are going to pay the dues. Whatever the dues are, the brothers will pay. You can tell by the way that the dues are structured now. There's a new thing on the dues, the brothers paid it. It's beneficial to them, the brothers paid it. But the participatory level of what we would have as a formal, which I still feel should be our time to put our chest out and have a good time, which we don't have. We don't have that in front of us. So we have a festive time that we can have, and it's mostly paid for. All you got to do, hey brother, you all come into the formal, bring your wife, give me $75 for the what you call. No money is made on the formal because it costs so much money to put it downtown. Right. And I tried to take it down to the suburbs, which was 20 minutes further than where we go downtown, $25 or $26 less for parking, and better accommodations. But the brothers are stuck on something. I don't want to call it what it is. But if you got a country club that you can have your formal at, and have food and have the golfing the next day or whatever, what more do you want? You can't do that downtown. You're going to pay $35 for parking. You're going to pay a lot more for the food and everything. And you wonder why the bids go up. The bids go up because Mayor Daley taxes the restaurateurs and downtown up the yang-yang. Why not make it so that everybody can go and not have to pay all the money they got to pay? Right. But as again, everybody's used to doing what they've always done, and that's the only way it's supposed to happen. No. That's why they got T-shirts in different colors. That's why they got different kind of cars now. Because you still get there, you got 4 wheels, everything still works, but you're in a different type of a mode, that's all.
Right.
But again, if we don't participate, it's not going to happen.
Right. Okay. Changing gears a little bit. Let's talk about your recollection of the founders.
I used to ride and sometimes drive Brother Irvin to the province meetings, to the founders days that we would have. There was a guy, that was a good friend of Brother Irvin's, and I can see him, and a heavyset guy, I can't think of his name, he's got a nickname. But anyway, he took me on as one of his proteges. Okay. And that's how I got to be with the founders on a regular basis. I would see Brother Armstrong a lot when I was down at any of the founders' days. We had those guys, and Joe Neal was there, and Joe Neal was a character, wonderful guy, but a character. And you talk about somebody that always speak his tongue, he was it. Nobody ever said a word about him. But you had Cush Phillips as a guy that was Brother Irvin's good friend. So Cush would ride, I would ride, we would all ride down wherever. And most of the time, the Founders Days and whatever, not Founders Day, but the province meetings would end up down in Indianapolis sometime, most of the time, which was good, because it was a wonderful thing. This is something that brothers that haven't necessarily gone to school and made it in school on a campus need to make it sure that they make efforts to go to province meetings. Get to the province meeting with a couple of brothers. You'll never have a better time in your life. Right. You'll never have a better time in your life. Driving there, wherever it may be, getting there and just being together and watching things and doing some things together and just having some laughs and thinking about how fortunate we are even to witness what we're witnessing. Okay. But it's something that every Kappa ought to make an effort to be and to do, is to go and travel, not to the Chicago province meeting, travel out of town to one of
Together.
these province meetings together.
Right.
It's nothing like it.
Okay. And relating to what you were saying, do you have a favorite Kappa brother or someone that you admire the most out of all the brothers that you've met and built a bond with over the course of years?
I wish I could say that there was one. There is one in particular, but there's several. We've lost most of them. A lot of them. Brother Irvin's one of the most wonderful, down-to-earth brothers that you ever want to meet. Very humble, because that's the way he was. He didn't have anything to be throwing his chest and whatever about. And he always talked about how fortunate he was to have been amongst the 11 that founded Kappa Alpha Psi. Another guy is like Ellis Reed, who was my divorce lawyer. He married me again to my wife of now. He's my other best friend's brother. He stood for, and he did a lot. You didn't even know how much this guy did, how much he had accomplished, and he didn't wear it on his back. And I don't think it's necessary to wear stuff on your back. I think the things that you do talk for you. If everybody doesn't know, that's their shortcoming. But he was the kind of guy that got things done, and that's what I like. You do things. You don't talk about what y'all don't talk about what I'm gonna do. I figure out what I'm gonna do, how I'm gonna get it done, do it, and after it's done, well, there it is. It's over there, and you can do whatever you want with it.
Okay.
Because it's nothing worse than an empty shell. It's nothing worse than that shell breaking when it doesn't happen after you talked about it so much.
So those attributes that you're speaking of leads me to my next question. How would you describe an ideal Kappa from your perspective?
An ideal Kappa is a guy that is a person, is a man that has convictions, that has the good of others and himself at his forethought on a regular basis. A guy that epitomizes the right thing to do, whether everybody thinks it's wrong or not, and stands up for it. Someone that is congenial, can work with people. I'm not talking about somebody who's full of himself or whatever, but he has to be somebody that can work with other people and show other people that things can be done, even though they look like they're insurmountable.
Okay. And I'd like to know what type of role do you believe the senior Kappas should be playing in the fraternity?
Well, I'd like to believe that they should be playing a role of mentorship, not necessarily ensuring that the things that they want done get done,
Okay.
but ensuring that the things that the new leadership are trying to do are not going to hurt them in the short or long run. A lot of times we get out there and start running and we think that we got the world by the tail, and the tail is us. Some things you can't do right away. The new leadership has one thing that it really needs to understand and do. It has to understand who their membership really is, what the makeup of it is, some of the things that they have been used to doing, how we can do those things and change some things, without incurring wrath. Because we have to bring those old guys, and unbelievably so, and I don't feel like it, I guess I'm supposed to be one of the old guys. But
just compared to me and this guy behind the
but I'm just saying that it's a different thought process because I'm the guy that you guys are now. I'm the same guy. And I had those thoughts, and I had ways to get them done. And I did those things. Not through the fact that there was all the help in the world, because you can only get the amount of success that's available to you through the amount of success that's available to you. But when you have success, there's nothing anybody can talk to you down about.
Right.
And that's what you have to have. You have to have some degree of success. There's one brother that is gained a lot of stature since I pulled him down from where he thought he was because he wasn't there, and turned him around and started him over again. And now he's got a lot of stature, a lot of stature. You think about it, you'll know who it is.
Okay.
But he started out following some of the wrong steps.
Yeah. And that's the type of thing that I was gearing my question towards, and it lends to your answer, your immediate answer of mentoring, because you're sharing your knowledge and experience of being a Kappa and going through the different trials and tribulations as leading in different offices, committee chairs, or just as being on a particular committee. All of those things together yielded an experience, a cohesive experience for you.
Yes.
To be able to share.
Right.
And be able to bring other brothers that are coming behind you and bring them up and help them so they don't make the same mistakes.
So they don't make some mistakes. Because the whole thing about it is, you can't be a good leader unless you're a good follower. And if you don't follow well, your leadership is going to fall.
Right.
Because somebody's got to lead. It's not necessarily always the best person. A lot of times it's not the best person. But until that opportunity comes to make situations better, we go along with it and hope we can make some changes internally to make it all better.
Okay. Well, with that being said, I'd like to know your opinion about, are we carrying out the vision of the founders currently? And when I say we, I'm speaking of the fraternity in general.
I don't know. I've had this for a long time, and it goes from grand chapter on to individual chapters. I feel like a lot of this is very self-serving. That's what I feel. The founders started out to do some things, and I guess we strayed some from those situations because we did one thing, and that's something I talked to you early before we got on camera about letting my boy do something because he's my boy. It doesn't always work out like that. It doesn't work out. Your boy, that's why we got so many renegades and Kappas now, because he was my boy. And you never could control my boy because he was your boy. You wouldn't stop your boy because he was your boy.
Right.
There's got to be some authoritativeness. We have, getting back to political again, we have a problem in Kappa that will not be addressed, I feel, until we do one thing. We've got to get representation for everybody. Everybody that's a Kappa that participates needs to be a representative. And all I'm saying is that it turns out to be a financial issue too. Grand Chapter, for instance. Grand Chapter learned how, the officers Grand Chapter learned how to manipulate their own growth. They did it through elimination. They eliminated voices. They gave as many voices to the few as they gave to the many. And that doesn't represent what the organization is about. What I'm getting to is like the voting situation. A chapter that has 6 members gets as many votes as Chicago alumni that has 200, or another chapter that has 175. We put in the most money to make things go, and if we don't put in the money, it doesn't go. But yet and still, we don't get a chance to have anything to say about it. Our participation, as far as even going and registering for a grand chapter and the province meetings, is down from what it ought to be.
Right.
It's down from what it ought to be because the guys that go don't get a chance to say anything or vote. I feel that unless it comes to the point where each one of the people that are there gets to have a vote, they're not going to pay the money to be there, to be recognized as a Kappa. Our numbers are going to be down. Our coffers are going to be down. And our leadership is going to be the same way that it's been, manufactured.
Okay. And you're touching on my next question, which is, and I'm sure you probably did answer a portion of this already. What do you see as being the pros and cons of Kappa Alpha Psi as it exists now? Kappa Alpha Psi as the fraternity and Chicago Alumni Chapter. What different things are we doing right that you like, that you see, and what are the modes of change that you see that the fraternity and our chapter could do to bring about change and make it better?
We're doing, I think right now, as much as possible, as much as possibly can be done under the circumstances. One of our biggest problems to me is our camaraderie level. Our camaraderie level does not necessarily allow us to intersperse and interact the way that we really could if we had, and it's been brought up before, a gathering place, a house. We need somewhere where we can do this on a regular basis, not just once a month, but maybe once a week or something like that, where we have some things where we all get together to be brothers. We all get together to learn more about Brother Jones, or Brother West, or whatever, or somewhere we can learn something more about one of the brothers is doing. If we just took time to allow a brother per week or per month or whatever to highlight what they're doing within their daily work, so that everybody else can know about it, so that we can feed off of it and maybe do some things about what he's doing to help him to be better, or to help so he can help somebody else to be better. We don't know which one it's going to be.
Right.
But we have a perception level that is not being met. And I think it's not being met because we don't get a chance to get together. We're letting life take us by storm by having other things in front of us, so much so that we don't give enough time to Kappa.
Okay. So what are some of your hopes and aspirations for the fraternity at large?
At large, I hope that the leadership recognizes and takes time to understand the dynamics of its membership, first of all. I'd like to see us moving into a facility of some sort, somehow, It's available to us. We just have not gone about it properly. And again, when everybody does not support the efforts that have been going on as far as doing that same thing, it falls into shambles. There's lots of property around. Some of it is being given away, some of it is not. We have older persons in place. We have aldermen's husbands and wives or chiefs of staffs that know about these same situations. And what we're not doing possibly is we're not reaching out hard enough. Maybe we reached out, but we're not reached out hard enough to let the people know that we're serious about what we want to do. And then we, the membership, has to be put on a wave where we totally support the effort that's being done on a monetary basis or a work basis or some kind of, everybody doesn't have money to put in, but other people have time to put in. If they have it, let them do it. But it has to be fostered, it has to be monitored, and it has to be something that is in the same venue and vernacular that is going to get us what we're looking for.
Okay. One question that I missed out on earlier when we were speaking about your pledge experience, I missed one thing I wanted to ask you is, since you came through the pledge program with the Scrollers Club, what's your opinion on the now defunct Scrollers Club versus the present intake program?
I don't think that there's that much of a difference. There's a thought process that's involved. I think that the initiation process is not necessarily good because any way that it goes, there's got to be a period of indoctrination, and that period of indoctrination needs to be a lesson learning situation where we learn the history of Kappa Alpha Psi, are drilled up on it to the point that we actually really pass a test on what the history of Kappa Alpha Psi is. And once that's done and they learn the song, then they ought to be put, but just to put them into an initiate state and take their money and read them in later, these guys don't have it. They don't have any idea, mostly because the amount of time they put in the first place is the amount of time they could put in the second place. Okay? If I were running the program, there would probably be about a 4-week situation where they would meet once or twice a week on information and song. They'd have a test. After they had the test, the ones that passed would go in, and the ones that didn't pass would have to be recycled. Okay? Period. Period. But just to bring them in and take their money, and see one other thing, and this is something I did. You guys don't know that. When we start first taking in people, we get their money for 1 year, and they pay the dues, and oh, they were gung-ho and they were there. And the next year, you look around, there wasn't nobody there. They weren't there. You couldn't get them. Consequently, I was on the board. I've been on the board many, many times. I was on the board. I said, listen, this is what we have to do. We take money from them for 2 years. Because after the first year, they still think they're Kappas and they ain't going to pay no more due. Let them know up front, this is 2 years. This didn't come from Grand Chapter. We started this in Chicago Alumni. I did. I brought that up. Take the money for 2 years. They're financial for 2 years. And it was drummed into their heads they were financial for 2 years. So that meant that we need to make sure you're here for 2. After the second year, hopefully, you got used to coming to the meeting. You got used to coming to the meeting. The third year, if you don't go to the meeting, I better go to the meeting. Brother, you know, your old dues, you were financial last year. Oh, I do. Okay, I'll pay. But they got used to coming to the meeting. The guys initially were only there for 1 year, and it wasn't even a whole year. It was only about 4 months. Because by the time they got initiated, the year was virtually over. So they didn't get nothing. And even right now, they get paid, they pay for 2 years, but it's really only a year and a half that they get use of. Am I right or wrong?
You're right.
So that was a good change. Now, again, like I said, the changes that need to be made, like I said, if I were running a program, it'd be 4 weeks. We would do, the problem with scrollership and initiation, we had brothers that were my boys that thought they owed somebody a butt beating because I got one. And they hurt people. And they put us in jeopardy. They put us in bankruptcy by lawsuits. So, evidently, even during the time of pledgeship, there was no real somebody in control of what was going on at pledge meeting. You see what I'm talking about? About authority and control and doing what's right and accountability. When my Polemarch down at Carbondale said, that's it, it's over, guess what? Everybody dropped what they were doing and it was over. He said, that's enough. He was a soft-spoken guy. J.T. Thomas was his name. He's in Springfield right now. And I admired him just for the fact that he did what he, country boy. He did what he said he was going to do. Your dean of pledges always didn't protect you the way that he could. Sometimes you got a crazy dean. And if you had a crazy dean and the Polemarch wasn't around, you'd be in trouble.
Anything goes.
Anything goes. And there were some crazy DPs out there. I had one. My DP was crazy. I loved him to death. But he wasn't killing crazy. He was just psycho. His name is Bill Gaffright. He's down in St. Louis now. He's been in St. Louis the whole time. But I loved him. I loved him. He was I don't know how to describe what he was. He was sadistically lovable. Okay, I don't know how to tell you.
He's the yin and the yang at the same time.
He was all of that.
Right.
He was all of, but I loved him. I still love him. Because he actually gave us something to look forward to. He gave us something to look up to. And he meant what he said, and he didn't go for whatever. Nothing got we had football players down there with Kappas. And you didn't want to get one of those football players, you know, and he would control. And this is what I'm talking about. Though, if every chapter, undergraduate, had been ruled and run like my time, after my time they messed up. We lost the house, we lost a lot of things because my boys got in there. Now, I'm just telling you, and I'll tell them too, same thing. But if everybody had been running their chapters the way that we had run our chapters, we could still be initiating people. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful situation, initiation to me. It was beautiful. And much as I hate to say it, I probably would do it again if I had to do it the way I did it before. It was just that way. And it left something on you. It left something on you to make you really feel like you had accomplished something. And to me, there's nothing greater than the feeling of accomplishment. Of course. And that's what I liked about Kappa. That's what I enjoyed about what I've been able to do with Kappa. Because most of the time, most all the time, I was able to accomplish something. And that's what I think, and that's what I'd like for this regime to do, is to make sure that they work toward accomplishing for the good of, not their good, for the good of.
Okay. Are there any other subjects that you can think of that you'd like to express? Because this is This is definitely an archive piece. It's going to be put in a time capsule, and brothers will be able to see this for years to come. Is there any subject matter that you'd like to put out there that I didn't cover?
I don't know. I tend to talk a lot when I start to talking. I might have been over most everything. I'm a bit miffed at Grand Chapter in the way that they do business and don't do business in their political manners. We should have had another conclave here back in '97, and we should have had one here this year in 2007. In '97, Grand Chapter wanted to show off their new house, which was an abomination. It was pitiful. But they took it from us. No, it was '95. It was Come Alive in '95 because I spearheaded that effort. We tried to get it was Chicago Alive in '95 was the slogan. And they took it from us because they wanted to show off Philadelphia and Grand Chapter. And it was pitiful. I'll never forget Virgil and I went through the supposed Kappa house at that time, and the Grand Polemarch at the time was telling us what we couldn't use as colors and stuff, and in their trophy case was black and red for Kappa. The computer system they had it didn't do what they were supposed to be doing. The place itself, they should have moved to another area, you know, rather than spend all that money and have all the cost overruns that they had that charged us so much more money that we had to pay more money. Life members had to pay more money in order to continue to be active because there was an assessment because of the overruns. And then this last time when we went down to Charlotte, and again I was spearheading that because I was Polemarch at that time, and Grand Chapter changed all the rules on how to do what they were doing. It used to be that the hotel had to be up and running and all those kind of things. It had to be a certain size in order to do, and they threw all the things out the window after Chicago. And when we went down to Charlotte, rather than giving us, well, we had already submitted our paperwork. Supposedly everybody had, and all we had to do was go in and see what they were going to do. But they changed the rules and had more paperwork the Monday before we would get there, and we had to get it back to them on Thursday. And I was working with the Convention Bureau on doing it. There was no time to do what they wanted to do, and it was my estimation that it was one of the situations where damn if you do and damn if you don't. If you don't submit the paperwork, well, they'll say, well, we knew we didn't want it in the first place. You submit the paperwork, say, well, they submitted it, but they're not going to get it anyway. They had already given marching orders to Minnesota as to what they wanted. They wanted money. They didn't tell us that. They didn't tell us what they wanted. They just submitted paperwork. So Philadelphia submitted that they would have corporate America 7 years later to be able to do what they say they was going to do. Corporate America can't stand that long. Too many things change in corporate America. We knew that. But we had offered $89 rooms in 2007 for undergrads in Chicago at the Conrad Hilton and at the Sheraton Chicago. $99 rooms for everybody else. Do you hear what I'm saying? We were down in Charlotte and we paid $149 for a room. That was whatever year that was, 5 years ago. $149.
That's a lot for now.
That's a lot, but I'm just saying. But I'm just saying. In that time, we had got the hotels to commit to that. Now, what I talked about earlier, as far as getting brothers to show up and pay their money so that they can be accountable and financial for Grand Chapter or other things. Why wouldn't you want to come to Chicago for an $89 room or a $99 room? Why would you want to go to Minnesota for a $149 room when the town closes up at 10:30. Okay? So I tried to tell the brothers at that point, who some of them were on the board, that we were not going to get the convention, because they already had given the information that they really wanted to get to Minnesota. We were just there because we were there. But a lot of them still don't understand that the politics of what was going on was to keep Chicago at bay. Chicago had been in charge for so many years through C. Roger Wilson and B.K. Armstrong and whatever, and down at Supreme Life, what's his name?
Earl Dickerson.
Earl B. Dickerson. All those past Grand Polemarchs that ruled with iron fists and kept things the way that they were. They didn't want any more Chicago. And so we're still sitting the same way, just like it is in province meeting. We've been fighting in Annapolis for how many years that you know of.
Right.
And the problem is that we never coalesced or haven't been able to coalesce everybody to do what we want to do. We have problems with some of the chapters right here amongst us that won't go and do what we would get together and make better so we could get some power here. So, you know, what we've been doing more than anything else is chasing our own tails and getting nowhere. So I'd like to see us stop doing some of those things. I'd like to see us get to a point where the brothers that are participating in these conventions at least have a vote. Give them something for the money, just like we tried to say in our chapter. Give the brother something for his money. If you don't give him something for his money, heck, yeah, he can drive over to Sioux Falls, not Sioux Falls, but over to Dubuque, Iowa, and have a good time and come on back. He don't have to get financial.
Right.
But give him something to give financial about. Give the brothers here that are in Chicago's alumni something that they can crow about, something that they can say, well, yeah, we did this. We don't hear us talking about what we did. Have you?
No.
We have to develop that. We have to develop a we attitude.
Right.
We have to develop a cohesiveness that we haven't had before. And once we do that, we'll see that Chicago alumni can rise above everything else around in spite of the things that are around us. And that's what it's going to take. But we need some leaders that see that. We need leaders that understand the dynamics of the membership. And we need some leaders that can say, hey, let's try this. Or let's do one of these old things. Let's do a couple of new things. Let's keep everybody involved. Let's put somebody here that used to do something on the committee to help these guys that don't know what they're doing, so we're not wasting a lot of time in committee and haven't done anything.
Right.
We got people around that can do all those things. But the problem is that we need to ask them, we need to involve them, and we need to keep them active. I apologize for not being able to be all that I could have been the last 2 years, but I've undergone some changes, some health changes, which I know are over, and that, you know, I'm going to work to be more visible and vocal in what's going on, not to the point of trying to make things different for my sake or anything, but to help make sure that we are going in the right direction.
For the good of Cal.
For the good of Cal.
Okay. Thank you, Brother Walker.
All right.
I appreciate your
Thank you.
time
No problem.
and welcoming us into our home, into your home. And one thing that I wasn't able to do is the last couple interviews that I have performed, I didn't give my due that's deserved to Brother Reginald Manny, who's assisted me with the video. So my thanks definitely go to Brother Manny for assisting us, because I wouldn't be able to do this on my own. So thank you, Brother Manny. He's here helping me with this video and all the future videos. I have him slated to assist me. So brothers, I hope you enjoyed this interview with our Brother Walker, and look forward to some more in the future. Thank you.